Susan Wise Bauer, and this is an introduction to how to use our new writing program, Writing with Skill. This is level 1. Now, Writing with Skill is going to be 4 levels, and what those 4 levels will do, which I'll talk about a little bit more in another segment that Molly will direct you to. What this series does is it gives the student the basic building blocks that they need to go on into high-level rhetoric, into what we would think of as high school and even beginning college persuasive writing. This lays the foundation for that. There are 2 books, as you can see. There is an instructor book. Molly is pointing out to me that I must hold this up so it can be seen. There's an instructor book, and there is a student workbook. Now, I think you need both of these, and I'm going to tell you why, and then if you decide you don't need the instructor book, that's, fine, that's your funeral, but I think you need both of them. So here's how it is set up. The center of this program is actually the student workbook. The student workbook begins by directing instructions at the student. One of the ways in which this series differs a little bit from our elementary grade series, which is Writing with Ease, is that Writing with Ease is very instructor-centered. There is basically one book for Writing with Ease, and it belongs to you, the instructor or the parent, and you rip sheets out and give them to the student and tell the student what to do with them. Now that's wonderful if you're working with elementary students. But as you move towards middle grade and high school, students need to learn how to direct themselves, particularly with writing, because writing is a very self-directed activity. Ultimately, as one of my favorite writers says, it's just you and the page. Nobody can help you. You have to sit there and do it yourself. So in order to help the student write independently, we have constructed this curriculum to be student-directed. So you give the student this, and it tells the student what to do. So for example, this is the beginning of, here, we'll get a little further on. This is the beginning of, let's go to week 13. This is the beginning of week 13. It says to the student, read the following complete folktale, and then the student reads it. And then it says, you will now summarize the passage in 5 or 6 sentences and write those sentences down. And it gives the student some direction on how to do that. And then it says, when you are finished, show your work to your instructor. So the directions here are meant to make the student work independently. Part of the point of this program is to teach students how to follow directions. So when you begin working with a student for the first time on this book, what you're probably going to find is you'll give them the lesson and they will say, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And that's because they haven't actually read the directions carefully. So the first thing you always say to them is, read the directions out loud. 95% of the time, and I'm speaking here from experience, the student will start reading and then go, oh, that means, oh, look, I read the directions and now I know what to do. So from that point of view, all you really need is the student workbook. But what do you do when the student finishes their work and brings it to you? You have to evaluate it. Now, the instructor text has 2 what I feel are essential helps for the instructor. The first is that the instructor book contains ways to prompt the student when the student is stuck. So for example, when we go to week 16, the student begins to learn how to write a description of a person. The first day, they actually outline a classic description of Queen Elizabeth. And they are supposed to pick out the main idea in each paragraph. The instructor text gives you questions to ask the student if the student can't figure out what the main idea of each paragraph is. So it says, paragraph 5, if the student is stuck, say, this paragraph mentions poetry, translations, and commentaries. What do all of those things have in common? Well, as the passage makes clear, Elizabeth wrote them. So that is the central idea in that particular paragraph. That is how you prompt the student to come up with the topic, things Elizabeth wrote. Right? So this is something that unless you are very comfortable writing yourself, you may have trouble doing on the fly and will certainly take you a lot of extra time. So my goal here was to save your time and tell you how to sort of pull these answers out of the student. This is true for all of the different assignments. All of them have ways to prompt the student if the student is stuck. Now the second thing that the instructor text has in it are rubrics And by rubric, we mean things that you look for when you are evaluating. Should I do that higher?
You should do it. Yeah, that's good, right?
There
well,
it is.
Down just
Down
a
little.
bit. Yeah, that's good.
Yes? Okay. Things that you should look for when you are evaluating the student's work. So for week 16, when the student writes their description of a person, which is what they do by the end of the week, here's what it says. At least 5, but no more than 8 of the aspects listed on the description of a person chart, which the student has been given to guide their writing, should be used. Physical appearance should be included. The composition should be between 200 and 600 words. Each sentence should make sense when read aloud. Proper names should be capitalized. Possessive forms should be written properly. Personal pronouns should have clear antecedents and be of the proper gender. Verb tense should be consistent. Subjects and verbs must be in agreement. Now, each week has certain grammatical elements that you need to focus on in terms of the student's writing. So this helps you have a realistic expectation of how long the composition should be and what elements should be present. There are also style tips in here. So the 7th suggestion in the rubric is, as the student is writing their description of a person, they may not use the following words: nice, good, bad, beautiful, lovely, attractive, handsome, pretty, ugly. Okay, these are all very generic words. And also the student may not use cliches, no sparkling or twinkling eyes. And so on. So the instructor guide gives you very detailed instructions in how to teach. This is what I like to call the teacher in the box. If you are yourself a writing teacher, you probably don't need it. I am a writing teacher. I tried to put my brain in here for you. So if you need a writing teacher brain, this is what you need. So there's 2 books together. You're going to direct the lesson at the student. Part of what you're going to do is help the student follow directions, and then you will use the instructor text to guide the student when they're stuck and then to evaluate as well. Now, it is set up to be done 4 days a week. There are 4 lessons per week. Our thought was that students who would like to do some creative writing, this is expository writing, it's not creative, would then like to have an additional day just to write creatively. Whereas students who really struggle with expository writing may need that additional day to complete some of the longer assignments. We do have a separate text called The Creative Writer, which is meant as a supplement to Writing with Skill for students who want to do creative writing. It does not in any way replace Writing with Skill. As a writing teacher, my position is that students who want to write creatively should be allowed to do so, but that no student should be forced to do creative writing. All civilized human beings need to do expository writing, but you can actually get through life perfectly well without ever writing a story or poem. Now, how long should each lesson take? So this might be the last question you would have. And to this I will say, well, that depends. You really, at this point, need to use your common sense when dealing with the student. A 5th grader who is beginning this program, which in some ways is very advanced for 5th grade, may need to break a lesson into 2. If half an hour of concentration is what you can get out of a 5th grader, then at half an hour you should feel free, when you start to see signs of weariness or frustration, you should feel free to stop and say, we will finish this lesson tomorrow. This is designed to be done 4 days a week for 36 weeks. But you get to change that around. You can divide lessons up. If a lesson takes the kid 10 minutes, you should go ahead and do the same lesson that day because another lesson later on is going to take them longer. If the student finds certain assignments just so boring that they can't possibly face them, they probably know how to do that skill already. Skip it. With a 5th grader, I would certainly not have a student try to concentrate for more than 45 minutes at a time on a writing assignment. At that point, they need to take a breath and stop and probably come back to it another day. But each student is going to differ. And if you're using this with an older student, you will of course be able to have them concentrate for a longer period of time and work on perhaps 2 lessons per day. So this is how you use Writing with Skill. Student workbook, my brain. I think you need both of them.